sun came up just a little while ago, so this is the beginning of our 6th day at sea. And last night I had one contact. I was at about 7.5 miles. It was a large ship, and it was heading due west, so it most likely came through the Straits of Gibraltar or Southern Europe, heading to Caribbean, maybe the Panama Canal. Apart from that, I have the whole ocean to myself. Secondly, last night we were going along great just around sunset and into the early evening. We were doing about 4 to 5 knots. We were on a beam reach, and then around midnight the wind became really light and the sails started flapping back and forth, making a big racket. And then we would get a little puff of wind. We would travel for 20 or 30 minutes, making terrific speed, 5 to 6 knots. Then that would die off, and the same thing repeated itself right through until about 5:30 this morning, when the wind steadied up and we got back underway again, and it was between 6 to 7 knots. So it was a lot of wind, but it was on a beam reach and we were going in the right direction. So I shortened sail, I took a reef in, and then shortly after sunrise, the wind went from blowing from the northeast to the east or even southeast direction. So right now we're close hauled and we're heading south, and we're doing about 4 knots. The other concerning thing is, I'll show you the battery panel. I don't know if you can read that, but it says 64%. So we only have 64% in the battery bank right now, and that's a bit of a concern, but it's because we've had almost 6 days of overcast weather. But now, today, the sun is out, so this is a good thing. Let's go see what the weather looks like outside. So the weather looks pretty good in the direction we're going, and you can see behind us we have a lot of dark clouds that we're leaving behind. So this is perhaps good news for the solar panels. We should get a bit of sunlight on them today, and that should bring our batteries back up. The other little concerning thing is the barometer. So the barometer has fallen quite a bit over the last couple of days. It's now down to 10:22, and I think we were at 10:26 yesterday. So it's fallen quite a bit over 24 hours. That means we can expect that we're in for a weather change. Most likely we're going to get some part of a depression that will come down on us, and that'll give us a wind shift. So I'm not too worried that we're making south right now. Ideally, we'd like to be making southeast or even east by southeast, but that could all change shortly once the weather changes, and I expect that'll happen sometime today. Wave Rover is just rocketing along right now. We've covered 10 miles in the last 2 hours. We've averaged 5 knots. But the boat is a little unstable. We're heeled over quite a bit, and we're taking a lot of water over the bow. If you go out to the cockpit right now, you're going to get wet. But we have a lot of sunshine, and if you remember from the previous video, I was a bit concerned with the battery banks getting low. Let's take a look now, just after a few hours of sunshine, how the banks are doing. There we go, 100%. Now on days like today, you're probably wondering, what kind of food do you eat? So I've just prepared my, well, it's quite likely it may be the only meal today. So it's because it's so rough. Even preparing this was a bit difficult on account of when you open a cupboard, everything flies out. And you know, to actually get stuff into a bowl or a pot is difficult without making a mess. So anyway, here's what lunch is. What we're looking at is rolled oats, a significant amount of plain Greek-style yogurt, chopped up apple, and a chopped up pear, all mixed together, and it's really quite delicious. I like this even when I'm in port. Anyway, that concludes our report for now. And oh yes, and I took a look at the barometer when I did the noon fix, and in fact it has fallen 5 millibars over 48 hours. And I can't tell if it's moving right now. I've got the marker on it. Hopefully it's stabilizing, but that 5 millibars over the 48 hours, that explains this high wind that we're getting. Let's just take a quick look out the back. There's spray it's in the air right now, so I don't want to go too far out. Is doing an amazing job holding everything together, keeping us going to windward. And I can tell you, it's always a disappointment when I see this video after shooting it, because the waves never look as big as they actually are. Somehow the camera has a way of making me appear a lot smaller. Wave Rover is double reefed, and we're making about 5 knots to windward. When the sun is out. Well, as we approach sunset on the 6th day, I'm reminded that yesterday, at around this time, I heard a distinct noise. Now, I know all the noises that Wave Rover makes. You know, at this time, I've been on board long enough. But this noise was a mechanical noise. So I rushed up on deck and scanned the horizon, and sure enough, there was a freighter, and it was a long distance off. So I came back in and I checked the AIS, and the AIS told me that the freighter was about 7 miles away, and I could still hear it. And that's not the first time that's happened to me. It also happened to me when I was on the North Atlantic crossing. In other news, the waves or the sea has increased, but the wind has decreased. And unfortunately, we're still taking waves over the bow. Otherwise, it would have been a great day to have the aft hatch open to air out the inside of the boat. And I'll show you what's happening here. I don't know if the camera can pick this up, but there's condensation on the side of the cabin here. You can see some drips, and you can definitely see on the chain plate here condensation. But on a more positive note, I managed to charge all the electronics today off of the fully charged battery bank, and I even had a chance to take a wash and a shave. Now, before I go on night watch, let's take a quick look outside and get an eyewitness weather report. So join us next week as Wave Rover continues on the voyage from the port of Horta in the Azores to Lanzarote in the Canary Islands.